Well, at 20 minutes to 5, we can now say the decision taken in 1975 by this country to join the common market has been reversed by this referendum to leave the EU.
Well, after the Brexit, global markets did take a tumble, including London's FTSE.
Panic as stock markets plummet in the U.S. and around the globe.
A day of chaos, a day of havoc.
Of course, the pound has cratered, falling to its lowest level in over 30 years.
The British people have spoken, and the answer is we're out.
The population of the UK voted to leave the European Union by a majority of 51.9%. So what happens now? That's a very good question. Prime Minister David Cameron, who campaigned to remain in the EU, has stepped down. And as of making this video, we don't know who's going to replace him. All we know is that it will be someone in the Conservative Party, which is the party currently in power. So exactly how did this happen? That's another very good question. On the 20th of February 2016, David Cameron set a date for the EU referendum to take place, a vote that would change the history of the United Kingdom. Then came the months of campaigning, which were surprisingly dirty for British politics. Political parties became irrelevant as ministers from every political party jumped to join either the Leave or Remain campaigns. Now, you might have seen tweets like these. Young voters seemingly suggesting that the older members of the public were essentially to blame for the result of the EU referendum. This was interesting because the youth voters overwhelmingly voted to stay in the EU. They were the demographic most likely to vote Remain, and like a series of steps going down to a basement, as the age of the voter increased, the more likely they were to vote Leave. In the 65 plus age group, 61% of the voters vote to leave the EU. There's also a figure going around suggesting that youth turnout was 36%. However, this figure may not be true and it is still up for debate. Personally, I hope it is incorrect because 36% of youth turnout is embarrassingly low. Other sources of anger stem from things like this.
The £350 million a week we send to the EU, which we will no longer send to the EU, can you guarantee that's going to go to the NHS?
No, I can't.
That was human-sized sack of Nigel Farage. He is the leader of the UK Independence Party, a far-right party here in the UK. He was also one of the leaders of the Leave campaign, and only hours after the result had been announced, he started backtracking on one of the fundamental promises made by the Leave campaign. This promise was literally written on the side of a bus. But the vote has been cast, and we as a nation and a global community must now deal with the consequences, whether they're good or bad. It is too early to fully appreciate the long-term effects of this vote. However, there have been some worrying speculations. With the United Kingdom out, some other countries may want to follow suit. France, Netherlands, Austria, Finland and Hungary could all follow Britain out of the European Union. This domino effect is a real possibility, and we could see the end of the EU before we see the end of this decade. Plus, Scotland voted overwhelmingly to stay in the EU. Thus, potentially, we could see the breakup of the United Kingdom as well. But this is all speculation, and no one really knows how it's all going to play out. This is a global news story, and I recommend you do a bit of research on it, especially if you're young, and especially if you live in the UK, because this is going to affect your future. And you don't want to end up like Fox News, who reported that the UK had left the UN. Plus, this story continues to unfold, and it's moving so fast that 24 hours after I upload this video, this will probably be out of date. With that said, this is a seismic event for Britain and British politics, and the whole world is feeling the aftershock. Also, one last thing, I made a video with Ross Everett in Trafalgar Square at a pro-EU rally, and that was a lot of fun. So I recommend checking that out.
I'm an American and I'm ignorant and I'm open about that, and I have no idea the difference between Britain and the UK. Can someone explain that to me?
My name's DefinitelyOwen. Thank you very much for watching. Nikola Tesla was a badass, and I'm about to give you a very brief introduction to a man that arguably deserves more recognition than any other scientist in all of time. We're going to try something quite ambitious. We are going to try and create an outdoor cinema for some of the students here on campus.